Hey guys, Daniel Plotkin here, muscle scientist and muscle lover. And if you love muscles too and want to grow them for yourself or for your clients, you're in the right place. I just wanted to give you all a warm welcome to the Hypertrophy Series. It's going to be course style, so each video will build upon the previous one. I think if you watch all these videos, you'll have a solid grasp on the principles and tactics of hypertrophy training, and importantly, a good grasp on how I come to these conclusions, so you can make your own decisions when applying this information as you learn more and as new science emerges. In this video, I'm going to talk about what this science thing is and how I use it to inform training decisions. So what is science? Well, that's actually a really hard question to answer, but according to Dr. Google, it can be defined as the systematic study of structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained. My more brief definition is stress testing systematic observations to get closer to the truth. This means we want some system or repeatable method that is organized and consistent to try to draw conclusions about something. We then use this method to attack a question from many angles to see if it can stay standing. And it turns out there's many methods and study designs that all help us get closer to the truth and potentially disprove how we think the world works. For example, Dan the Man says,
How to build muscle? Easy enough, brother. Just lift heavy weights, brother. One set to failure, that's all you need. Don't listen to anybody else. Also, try not to be so soft for once in your life, and then maybe you'll grow.
Now while the softometer is still in prototype phase, the one set question can and has been tested many times. If we want to know how many sets on average are best for producing muscle size, we would ideally randomly place a group of people into a higher set group, a lower set group, or a control group that does not lift and measure their muscle before and after. This is called a randomized controlled trial. The randomization is important because we want to be sure we aren't placing people consciously or unconsciously into a group we believe they will perform better in. Control groups are useful because we want to be sure that the differences are outside of what we would see with just normal variation. There are many other safeguards in science that are designed to reduce the risk of bias or confounding. Just know that while the system isn't perfect, because humans are imperfect and good science is truly hard to do for many reasons, the tools of science are what allow this process to be self-correcting and ultimately better than Dan the Man, who we can't completely discount. People's experiences are useful to think about, but a more rigorous scientific approach, like a formal study, is a huge help because it is more systematic and has more safeguards against bias. So it has the ability to tell us things with more confidence in our conclusions than one person's experience. And let's be honest, people are prone to lying about what they really do. Now let's say we finish the study and find more sets are better. What can we say? Well, the finding could be a false positive, so replicating the study is probably a really good idea. Also, how much better did they grow? Is it worth the extra effort? Are more sets only better in this specific population? What about rest periods, muscles used, exercises used, and so on? You get the point. Once you answer one question, many more questions pop up. One study can't answer every question. Now, this is all about a randomized controlled trial, which is typically the study design that allows us to draw the strongest conclusions because we can manipulate the variable of interest. In this case, it was the number of sets. But these trials are really hard to do because they take a tremendous amount of effort, time, and money. Luckily, they are not the only trial design. Other trial designs are very useful. For example, observational studies observe changes over time, like measuring powerlifters' strength over time, but not actually manipulating how they train, or looking at the differences in fiber types between different athletes. Now, because there is much less control in these trials, we need to be more careful about how we draw conclusions because non-random populations can have many differences that are hard to account for, such as genetics, habits, and tons of other variables. But these studies can definitely be insightful. We would never be able to run a 10-year trial looking at how fiber types change with different styles of training, but we can get a glimpse into what might be going on by using different types of athletes. Now, there are tons of different trial designs that can help us draw conclusions. Studies that look at mechanisms, twin studies, anatomical studies, genetic association studies, and many more that we can use if they make sense to help us answer questions about training or any other question we have. But what do we do with all this stuff? How do we integrate it into something actionable? So here's where the rubber hits the road. How do we make decisions for an applied science, like hypertrophy training? Well, for me, there's really 4 main categories: scientific evidence, principles, experience and tactics, and logic and heuristics. Let's go through them one at a time. Scientific evidence. Ideally evidence from trials looking at the specific question you want answered if they are available. But often they are not available, and using all the evidence available is a very good idea. Importantly, we want to know what this evidence can and can't tell us so we can make decisions. Let's move to principles. Now, I'm using this term fairly loosely, where it applies to fundamental concepts that can be derived from trials and from the basic sciences, such as physics, chemistry, and biology. For example, a physiological principle derived in the 1950s showed us that motor units, a motor neuron and its associated muscle fibers, get recruited in size order. But sometimes principles also refer to things like the point of diminishing returns, which has its roots in economics but also applies to a lot of physiological contexts, like the fact that there will and has to be a point where more sets is not better. Now moving on to experience and tactics. The experience you have applying concepts with the tactics and tools you have at your disposal. This means machines, exercises, sets, reps, periodization style, all the things that you make decisions about to make the program fit the person's goals, anatomy, physiology, and psychology. You notice people tend to feel more pain when doing one exercise or have a harder time learning another, and so on. And last but not least, we have logic and heuristics. Logic, or sound reasoning, is important because you need to know why you are choosing to do something, even if it's as simple as the person likes it and it's working. This is important because it allows you to course correct if something isn't working or new evidence emerges that allows you to stop doing or recommending something. If you never talked yourself into something, it's very hard to talk yourself out of it. And heuristics simply refers to mental shortcuts that allow people to solve problems and make judgments quickly and efficiently. So this is basically using the other categories and logic to make on-the-fly decisions without overthinking. A session isn't going as planned, or something came up and you have less time, how do I salvage what I can for a productive outcome? All of these are important, and honestly, none of them are more important. It just depends on the situation. A scientific study couldn't tell you exactly what to do. It just gives you a good starting point. But scientific thinking and using principles, experience, and sound reasoning to make use of the tools at your disposal is how you create a good exercise plan for you or your client. So, it turns out my 7th grade teacher was right. We are all scientists, but learning the skills to get better at knowing what we know to be true and applying that knowledge takes time, but always remember, the simple stuff works, and often learning the details can make you confident in that. Now I know what you're thinking. You told me all of that BS just to say that the simple stuff works? Well, yeah, but often the application is simple, but here's a bunch of things using science and scientific thinking can help with for fitness goals. It can help you find a pretty good starting point for most people in a lot of contexts, help you get more from less, or make what you do in and out of the gym more efficient, help you realize what's most important so you worry less and that there can be multiple good solutions to one problem, help fill in glaring holes in your training you may not have considered. For example, thinking squats are a good hamstring exercise, or pressing will work the triceps long head well. Help improve your critical thinking, which can save time and money that is being wasted on useless supplements or quick fixes. Help troubleshoot when things aren't going as planned, or you have a more unique case. For me, it even helped find purpose beyond muscles, which I know is hard to believe. If you haven't realized by how many times I said help, this is a cry for help. Help me realize why you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. So why science? Well, honestly, it's because it's the best we've got. And also, it's just simply really cool. Hopefully, you think it's cool too. If you do, like the video, subscribe to the channel, send it over to the friends and family who don't hate you, and take this journey to Muscle Knowledge Town with me. Thank you.